Hello everyone, my name is Boyenn, and today I'd like to show you this unloading array. This is the unloading array as it is currently being used on the SciBlitz server. It is very much still in prototype phase. I should also mention that I am not affiliated with SciCraft at all. I am not a member, I'm just a friend, and I try to help out with their unloading needs for their main storage on the SciBlitz server. Currently, it's also looking like if we improve this version enough that it might even make it onto the main SciCraft server once it updates. We'll see. But this is just very much a prototype phase. It's been tested in survival and working though, so I would say it is ready for the first video. You can definitely already expect more videos coming soon on the system, and also a lot more streams over on my Twitch channel, where I will be working on the system in particular, compacting it, adding new components, etc. So if you want to hang out, ask some questions or anything like that, be sure to follow me on Twitch. The link will be in the description, and you'll be able to, come and hang out and just ask whatever you want, or just chill or learn something, just really up to you. Twitch is definitely my main thing. I just do videos as a update every now and then, so yeah, that's pretty much that. Before we get into a full explanation of how the system works, I should first explain why the system exists in the first place. So regularly when you have a bunch of item filters, let's assume that you had a ton of them like here, and your chest haul would be here. If you had a bunch of item filters, theoretically they can all work simultaneously, right? So if you had these 5 item filters and they would be assigned to 5 different items, then theoretically all of them should be able to handle input and sort items at once. However, the problem is that if you're doing Shulkerbox unloading, if you unload multiple Shulkerboxes at once, you don't necessarily know that you're not accidentally overloading your filters. If you happen to be unloading 2 Shulkerboxes full of stone at the same time, then the sorters will just not be able to keep up. So therefore we designed this system which is able to detect that it's which items it is unloading, and make sure that we're always only unloading every item type once. Hopper speed. I don't have a clear example of a chest haul hooked up to this. You can see this in the SciBlitz day 15 recap. If you want to see how it works together with the storage system, today I'm really going to focus on the unloading array. But before we really delve into how it works, let's just give it a little test run. Right here I have a chest that I stole from Cubic Meter's role download on how to kill a chest monster, which are filled of boxes that he took from the Hermitcraft Season 6 server, I think. These are all just mixed boxes. They contain some unstackables, some of them are, really full boxes, some of them contain just a regular mix of items. So there's just a healthy mix of everything in here. And if I take that system and input it into here, currently the system or the server is running 10 times as fast as it should be, just for explanation purposes. You'll see that we are able to unload multiple boxes at once, and we're actually only unloading one item type at a time. We can see that if we look at probably the most important component of this whole system, which is this little chest right here. This tells us all the different item types that we are currently unloading. This chest is used as a method to determine whether an item is already being unloaded or not, and it is used to check new boxes coming in against it, whether or not they should be allowed to unload. We'll delve into a diagram on how the whole logic on this system works in just a second, but let's see it finish. So currently we're unloading all these items. They are unloaded into a water stream here. They are batched here. These are ghost blocks, by the way, so these are not actual blocks. This is a really nice ghost block generator. If I put the tick rate to 20, there we go. You'll see, at this point there's not really that many of them unloading anymore, but you'll see they are batched within these cauldrons here. They are pushed out to this side. At this point the item entities are already batched. into stacks of 5, and then here they would end up in the chest hole. You can see the batches of 5 working. The letter happened to run out, but you see the point here. And yeah, let's delve into the diagram of how the system does what it's supposed to do, and then delve into every component individually. Alright, so this is the main logic diagram for the system. It is a little bit simplified for the video, but it should get you most of the information that you need if you want to understand the system completely. What we have here is that whenever a box comes in, we run it through a system that checks if that box has 2 of the first item type or not. This is very important because we're going to use one of the 2 item types as a key later on, and the other has to remain in the box so that it is still the first item type to be unloaded in the first item unloaders. So this 2 of the first item type checker checks if has 2 outputs, either a box with 1 item or a box with 2 or more items. If it is a box with 1 item, it takes the item and then puts it into a buffer, which will, when the complete array is done, unload all those single items at hopper speed. If it is a box, it is checked against, is it now empty after that 1 item is taken out, or does it still have items? If it has items, it just goes all the way back to input. If it doesn't have items, then we output it as an empty box. We will zoom in on every component individually later on in the video to actually explain how that works, but I just wanted to go quickly over the full diagram here. So this is the 2 of the first item type checker. When it is a box that has 2 or more items, then it is allowed to go on to a toggle buffer. I'm not going to really explain how that works right now, I'll explain that later on. But for now, just see this as an output. So a buffer that buffers boxes and it outputs them. That should be more than enough information. So then we get to a wanker, lovely named by Sir Rapscallion and adapted by the storage stack community. Which basically just means it has a box, it takes out 1 item and then uses that item as a key, while also remembering which box it was for. It takes that item, it checks it against a set. This is the double chest that I showed you earlier. We'll also go a little bit more in depth on how that set works later on. And basically the whole logic is, if the item was already in the set, then that means that the box is already unloading, or there is already a box with that item type unloading. We can recombine the box and the key and send it back to the toggle buffer. This basically means this item is already being unloaded, so for now you are unable to be unloaded because it is already being unloaded. I hope that makes any sense. If the item wasn't already in the set, we would add it to the set, so that it is remembered that this will now be unloaded, and then we take the box and we send it to the unloading array. The unloading array is a version of my first item unloader that you've maybe seen already in some of Cubic's videos for his encoded multi-item storage, or his unloading array that works based on encoding. The unloading array basically just unloads the first item type in the box completely. It batches that into stacks of 5 at the moment, because at the moment we don't have anything separating 16 and 64 stackables, so we really need to make sure that we only stack to 5. And it sends those items to a water stream output. When the box is done unloading, 1 item gets sent back to the set, which is, I guess, this arrow right here, and it uses that to remove the key from the set, which means that from now on this item can be added again and can be unloaded again, because it is no longer being unloaded at this moment. So now let's look at every component individually. This is the first 2 of the first item type checker that you see in the diagram. It should also be on the screen right now, which outputs it has. The input is here, it starts off here in this chest. And then there are, I think, three outputs. There is the empty Shulkerboxes, which end up here. You would hook that up to whatever empty Shulkerbox storage that you have. We have this output, which is for the actual correct boxes. So boxes that have two of the first item type inside of it. They will be sent to the buffer module, which is over there in green. And then we have the third output, which is impossible to find. No, it is here. These are the single items for the boxes that only had a single item in them. They will be sent directly to this system right here, which is the system that unloads all the single items once the array is completely done. So let's use some example boxes as input. We got this box right here, which only has one item. So what we expect is for the box to be dispensed here, for the system to check whether or not it has two items of the first item type by trying to pull out two items here. It will of course fail, which leads so that when it ends up here, it is sucked up by the correct hopper, and then the box will end up, let's see, where is it again? Here. Get that one out of the way to not confuse you. So the box will end up here, and the item will be spit out on top here. So let's see that in action. Let's just put it in a couple so you can really see it happening. I'm gonna put 9 in here. So you can see, if I look at the filter, because it can detect that it never goes to 2, all the items here are now going to the hopper where the box is sending on. We'll get then down here where we check the empty boxes, and they will be thrown here. So if I empty out my inventory and stand here, I have stackable shulkers enabled on the server. All the boxes have ended up here. So that's that for the 1 item boxes. For the 2 item boxes, we basically do the same thing, but we just have different outputs. Let's try that again. 9 boxes in there. They all get dispensed, but this time if we take a look at the filter, it is able to detect that it has 2 of that item type, which means that this toggle isn't toggling when it comes down here, which means that we have no output in the empty boxes, and we did have output going directly to the toggle buffer array here, which is already processing the boxes at the moment. Then last but not least, we have a box with, let's actually take this one, with an unstackable in the first slot and gray concrete in the second slot. If we put in a couple of those, they will be handled exactly the same way as the oak buttons. So the unstackables are spit out again. The boxes get dispensed. Again, we have the water bucket is taken out correctly. What you're seeing happening now to the gray concrete is because the box is already being recycled with the gray concrete inside. So if we take a look at what's arriving in the buffer itself, let's just intercept them here. You can see that now it's really only the gray concrete and the blue concrete from before, because those are just recycling throughout the whole system at the moment. So yeah, that's working perfectly. That's how the set operates. I'm not going to go into too much detail on how the redstone works, especially as we're not really planning to keep the redstone layout here like it is now. We're really planning to optimize this and make this a lot smaller. But basically it comes down to this filter, checking if it has 2 items, and depending on whether it does or not, it will have separate outputs. That's really the most important thing here. And then if it has the one item and isn't empty, it's just sent up through this dropper elevator back into the chest here. Technically, the toggle buffer system would be the next component that we need to showcase. However, it is not really the most interesting one, so I'm going to keep it for later on in the video. And it's also not really the most necessary one. This is a small optimization that will only make sense after I've shown you how this set works and operates. So Instead, we're going to look at probably the most important component within this whole system, which is outlined in blue over here, which is the set. I'm gonna take some example boxes again and just input them into the set directly. So let's take some blue concrete, let's take some gray concrete. This would never arrive there, so let's not. So as you can see at the moment, the set is completely empty, which means that no boxes of any item type are currently being unloaded. If I put in a box that has 2 gray concrete in it, you will see that it gets dispensed. There we go. There's a pulse extender on the clock, which is why it takes so long to start up. But yeah, you'll see it get dispensed. Now gray concrete is being remembered. Meanwhile, the box was unloaded in the set. It's actually already done. And the gray concrete is coming back. And then you'll see the gray concrete get removed from the set. Again, pulse extender on the clock. There we go. So let's try that again, but this time with blue concrete, and let's put in more than 1 box. So let's put in 5 boxes. And what you'll see is that blue concrete will be added to the set right there. And now every other box is actually checking against the set, and it is not allowing them to go through the unloader array because it can see that it was already in the set. Let's see that happen again when the Shulkerboxes come back up here. There we go. So let's see that happen again. This time take a look at the filter underneath. You'll see that because the item was also in the set, this stacks up to 2. We again detect that it does that. And then we use that to make sure that the Shulkerbox does not end up in the wrong, or let's say does not end up in the unloading array. Rather, it keeps getting recycled. So there we go again. Coming in again, they're being checked again. While if a box is done unloading, let's see if we can also spot that happening. So we have one unloading here. Let's quickly speed the game up a little bit. Yeah. Should be happening any second now. There we go. Box is done unloading, blue concrete comes back up, and if we look at the set in operation, you will now see that the set will be unmapped. Soon, again, the pulse extender, there we go, set is unmapped, so now the next box that came in was accepted and is now currently being sent to the unloader. There we go. Again, I'm not going to go too much into detail of how the set works. It's basically a filter, a variable filter, kind of similar to how you would normally handle multi-item sorters. But again, I'm not going to go into too much detail. If you have any questions about the actual wiring, first of all, please note that the wiring is currently really prototypey and janky. But then also, if you just want to know why something is the way that it is, just send me a message on either Discord or hop into the streams and I'll explain anything there. So let's see how a slice of the first item unloader works. Again, this slice is not really compacted nor optimized, but it does the job for now. Basically what it will do is it will accept only 1 box. So if we put in an item, it locks its own input. It will then unload the box of its first item type using a variables filter here. As soon as it detects that the item type was done unloading, it breaks the box, which will end up in a hopper line here. It could end up in the hopper next to it or whatever, it doesn't really matter because there's a global output for it. And then down here we have a dropper that is normally batched with items on a global clock. Here the same thing, we're going to try to make this a local clock instead, but for now and the speed we wanted to get this done, it's for now a global clock. And then finally we have the system here. Let me actually try to find it, right? Where we have a signal to release a batch that also comes from a global clock. So let's quickly set that up. There we go. So that released the batch into the item stream. In this case, it was 15 items, obviously, but the global clock normally handles the size of the batch. Very importantly is that the hopper that is used to unload the box is locked by default, and it is always either locked or covered by a composter or has a box on top of it. That is very important to make sure that it remains in a one-tileable fashion, so that boxes broken from the slice next to it are impossibly able to land in this slice. That is what is really required to make a system like this 100% reliable. I'm going to be working on compacting the system a little bit together with some other people, but yeah, for now this is a working slice and it does the job pretty well, I would say. And then there's actually two things that I almost forgot to mention. The slice will output the very last item that it unloaded into this dropper line, and that dropper line will be cleared out globally. Let's demonstrate that happening. So as you see, at the moment this dropper is empty, and then pretty much as soon as the box is broken, there we go, one of the repeater ends up in here, which will then be used to unmap the item from the set, so that, you know, new boxes with this item type can come in later on. Then there's also a readout here that's A/B tileable, or whether or not the slice is currently unloading. We use that to determine if the whole array is, or any of the slices in the array are currently unloading, which is very important because we need to know when it's done so that we can unload the single items that we saw previously in the diagram. And then finally we get to green, which is the toggle buffer. As I've said before, it's not really the most crucial part of the system, it's just something to optimize the system. And essentially, the reason we're even using this in the first place is what would happen with failed boxes that wouldn't get assigned in the set. They would constantly be retried before new boxes. So failed boxes had some sort of intrinsic priority on accident, just because of the way that chests work. If a box ends up in here, let's quickly demonstrate that. Let's say if we have maybe look this. Let's say if we have a ton of Shulkerboxes in here, it would take out the first box, it would try, it would fail, it would take out the second box, it would try, it would fail, take out the third box, it would try, it would fail. But by then, the same boxes would already be recycling back, and it would keep trying these 3 again, or 4, I think it was. So to prevent that from happening, because all of these other boxes are currently not being checked, which is extremely wasteful, we have this toggle buffer here, which basically is just a system. Let's lock its output so you kind of see what's going on. And if I just put a bunch of unstackables in here, basically what it will do is it will distribute the items so that one side is locked and the other side is unlocked in the input side, and then the opposite 2 sides are locked and unlocked on the output side. This makes sure that new items coming in, and new items in this case would be boxes that have just recently failed, wouldn't be processed up until the whole other side of the buffer has been processed. So this gives pretty much every box a somewhat fair chance to be checked against the set. This system in particular was kind of botched on last minute to really improve the speed of design. It actually helped quite a bit, but for the next version we're pretty much completely going to get rid of it. Reason being, we're going to handle the failed boxes in a much more interesting way. That is going to be much less wasteful, and also use a lot less operations on the set for mapping and unmapping, which is, yeah, just overall a great thing to have. So let's see it continue. Should be pretty much finished. So this one's emptying out, and while this one's emptying out, this one was filling up. There's only one bucket in here left, but still point stands. So this will swap over. There we go. Toggle to this side. That's unloading, and now everything's unloaded to this side. This is just running on the same clock as the set is running on, so that it doesn't overload the set. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the system. Don't really pay too much attention to it. It's there because it is really important for the for this version of the prototype, but in the future it most likely will not be there anymore, for a good reason, because we're going to handle those cases a lot better. Then, alright, that was pretty much the overview of the entire system. Again, please keep in mind that this is very much a prototype phase. I am not even sure if I'm going to try to archive it in the Storage Tech Discord or not. I'll have a discussion with Viri about that, whether or not I should. But there will be a world download in the description. You can check it out. You can try it out, run it in survival even. It's completely reliable. It's just, you know, I'm not really proud of the wiring, and there's so much that we can improve. So if you do try it out, please pay some respects with this being released as a prototype version, which means, you know, don't come talking to me about why is this hopper unlocked, why are you using this many dust updates, that kind of thing. It's really a proof of concept, but actually a functional, reliable proof of concept that is actually able to be used in survival, as evidenced by the SciBlitz server, who's had pretty much no issues with this system. They had some issues, but they were using a older version of the unloader, and all the issues there are fixed already. So they will be also fixed in the world downloads, because yeah, this is the correct version here. Then I'm probably soon going to do another video on the updated version of this. I don't know how long it will actually take until I get a version that is, you know, somewhat clean in my eyes and does the improvements that I wanted to do, but I guess we'll see. And I'm also thinking about doing a video comparing this particular unloader to Cubics unloader, to Optics unloader, and to Bad Amstel's unloader, so that we can really have a look into what advantages this has over, for example, a splitter-based system, so where you do splitters and then parallel unloading, or what advantages this system has over something like Cubic system, which is also working with mixed boxes, but instead of working with a set and a blacklist, he works with encoded slices. I will also deeply express my gratitude for Cubic, for Optic and Bad Amstel. All of their designs in parallel unloading have been very, very key to the design process of this machine. I've been working on parallel encoding for a long time, you know, even before some of the names that I mentioned here, but some of the inventions or problems they proposed were really key in making this system work the way that it does now. I will link all of their videos in the description, and you can check them out there. And then there is going to be a long list of people who have worked on this system. I have not done this alone. Please check any of them out in the description. There's some guys on there that are way better at Storage Tech than I am. I'm just the idea guy. And yeah, there's some guys in there that you should really check out, especially Rapscallion and RefQ. They've been a massive contribution to this project, and you should really check out their channels, because both of them produce amazing machines, amazing content, and yeah, you might learn a thing or two. Yeah, so that's gonna be it for me today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Again, check me out on Twitch, where the process of improving this machine is going to be live streamed for the most part, or some part of it at least. So yeah, check me out on Twitch. It will be in the description as well. And have a good day, night, wherever you are.